Did you see my baby mama dance?
I mean, stop it. First of all, can I just tell you the timing of that, we maybe watched it like 20 times yesterday. And I was like, is that her?
Oh my God.
Is that Prince Harry there with the fingers and the, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, by the way, that wasn't yesterday.
No, true.
That was 4 years ago. So it's also a really great reminder that with all the noise or whatever people do, there's still a whole life, a real, authentic, fun life that's happening behind the scenes. I'm just grateful that now, being back on social as well, I have a place where I can share it on my own terms.
She lost it, and not in private. According to explosive staff leaks, Meghan Markle has been thrown into chaos after a bombshell internal document allegedly revealed the full list of celebrities who flat out refused to appear on her new podcast. We're talking Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, Jennifer Aniston, the biggest names in the business, declining, dodging, or flat-out ghosting. The document, reportedly compiled by a frustrated PR executive, was leaked by a former insider, and it paints a brutal picture.
So much fun.
You and I are so similar. You and I...
With your guests, when was the last time you were surprised and delighted?
Last night, and also this morning, but last night when I went back to my hotel, and then you put your thumbprint in, which is what makes it a fun group activity, and you could fill it with jam, you could do chocolate, anything you like, of course.
This isn't a simple case of scheduling conflicts. It's a reputation crisis unfolding in real time. Sources say Meghan believed this podcast would cement her as the new voice of global empowerment. But behind closed doors, it's collapsing. And now, the woman once seen as untouchable is watching A-listers treat her like a liability. And the worst part? Her team allegedly kept the truth from her until now. What followed, insiders say, was a meltdown. Emotional outbursts, doors slammed, phones thrown. Because when the full list hit her desk, the reality was undeniable.
She spreads her legs, she hikes her dress, she circles her genitals.
This woman is a born manipulator. The Netflix thing, she doesn't do the work. She doesn't make the jams. It's all made for her.
Nobody wanted in. According to former staffers, the list of celebrities who declined reads like a red carpet roll call. Beyoncé allegedly passed without even a courtesy reply. Taylor Swift's team sent a polite, not available, but sources say the real message was clear: no interest. Jennifer Aniston allegedly responded that she was focused on internal priorities. Translation? Not touching that drama. And it didn't stop there. Oprah reportedly gave a flat no. Selena Gomez's team said she was between projects. Reese Witherspoon's name was floated, declined. Kerry Washington declined. Priyanka Chopra declined. Even former royal-friendly names like Serena Williams and Amal Clooney? No reply. One source described the situation as a blacklist without the ink.
Everybody says she's a bully, she's very nasty. Not only is she incredibly controlling, but she's a bitch. About the end of every episode, it says, like, the starring, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex.
Yes.
That's how she's...
As ever, her new company, the very first thing she said was, look, you know, when I had the TIG, which was her previous lifestyle website, you know, I loved cooking and I loved gardening and being a hostess, and that she basically said I had to keep my light under a bushel at this time because of the royal family. Then we get her show, her Netflix show.
No one wanted to be tied to Meghan's new platform, especially after Spotify walked away and industry whispers grew louder about her unpredictable reputation. It became a game of brand protection. Everyone kept their distance. These aren't just rejections. They're professional gut punches. Every no confirmed a bigger truth. Meghan's brand isn't pulling like it used to. Then came the second wave.
Once they did, I remember being told there was a huge headline like, we found him or we've got him. You're talking about someone's father. And from that point, the tabloids, they moved into the apartment next door and across from him.
The only thing HRH stands for in association with Meghan Markle is her ruthless homewreckerness.
About an hour-long cab ride, never seen his grandchildren. This show is packed with a kind of spurious claims and hypocrisy that have become the Sussex signature. We learned they began making videos about their heroic journey 6 months before their Netflix deal was even announced, and right at the start of a pandemic that was killing.
Leaks revealed not just who declined, but how Meghan handled it behind the scenes. And that's when things got even uglier. According to insiders, some of the podcast's most high-profile interviews were not conducted by Meghan at all. Instead, producers reportedly used pre-interviewed content from the guest and had Meghan record her interactions later, adding in reactions, transitions, and voiceovers after the fact.
There's a real delight in being able to be a present parent. And it's a luxury sometimes because we all have to work. We all have a lot of stuff to do. But when you can take a minute to just...
Saturday morning.
Wanting to exploit their royal titles, I think it stinks. And I think what King Charles should do, he should just strip them of the titles.
Did it feel like betrayal when you found out your father was working with the tabloids?
I'm just trying to decide if I'm comfortable even talking about that.
In short, it was edited to feel real, even when she hadn't spoken to the person. Staffers called the process illusion building. One said, "You'd think Meghan was sitting across from the guest, but she never even joined the call." It wasn't just one episode either. Allegedly, at least 3 interviews used ghost voices, repurposed quotes, or producer-conducted conversations stitched together with Meghan's commentary.
Favorite little niece, Ashley. Meghan also sees she got no advice on royal protocol, forcing her to learn how to be a princess all on her own.
Joining this family, I knew that there was a protocol for how things were done. There's no class in some person who goes sit like this.
Oh my gosh, I worked so hard.
About it. If you excuse the massive book deals, the Silicon Valley startups, the preaching videos about well-being, the podcasts, the speeches, and the major network interviews with everyone from Oprah Winfrey to James Corden. But they've barely been seen or heard at all, have they? Well, on Thursday, they'll quietly and apologetically release their $100 million.
And when this was brought up internally, the message was simple. This is how it works now. But it didn't work. Once the story got out, credibility collapsed. Listeners started asking questions. Media watchdogs circled. And Meghan's image? Cracked wide open. When Confessions of a Female Founder launched, it spiked to number 2 in Apple's business category. Headlines buzzed. Meghan's stans rejoiced. But then came the drop. Within 2 weeks, the podcast fell off Spotify's top charts. On Apple, it slipped out of the top 50 entirely. Critics slammed the pacing, called it inauthentic, and accused the show of being overproduced fluff. Listeners dropped off episode by episode. Sources close to the analytics say that episodes expected to pull 6-figure streams were barely hitting 30,000 plays by week 3. Even with PR spend and algorithm boosts, Meghan's voice wasn't sticking. There was no buzz, no viral moments, no cultural footprint, just silence. The numbers were so low, insiders say the second season was quietly delayed, then shelved. No renewal announcements, no preview clips, and Meghan, reportedly furious at the lack of traction. She had banked on this being her next chapter. Instead, it's become a ghost town, with digital tumbleweeds and reviews calling it a masterclass in wasted potential.
She talks like she's a one-woman band. That is not hard work. Hard work is get up in the morning, get to 7 o'clock, get into a factory or a shop and working for 10 hours on your feet, coming home knackered. That's not what happens to her.
And still being a mom.
That is
still
not
being
what
a
happens to
mom.
her.
What matters is what we have on the inside.
This also follows all the stories about her bullying staff over here in the UK, which is unresolved. NDAs stopped all that stuff coming out, but she bullied people in a very unpleasant way over here.
So, how did she take the news? One word: badly. Sources say Meghan found out about the staff leak late at night and completely lost composure. One assistant allegedly heard shouting from her home office. Another claimed Meghan threw a phone across the room after seeing the headline "Confessions Collapse." Trending on social media, reports from inside her team describe an emotional spiral, panic over her public perception, rage at the betrayals, disbelief that so many A-listers declined her invite.
Mornings are as I get the kids off to school. You're making fruit parfait crudité boards? Like
my God.
whom? She is Harry Sussex. I have no idea. And no, Meghan, no one knew that. Like, why are you correct?
One staffer said, it wasn't just that they said no, it was that everyone said no. That's what broke her. Insiders say Meghan accused staffers of sabotage, questioned loyalty, and demanded a list of names who had access to the leak. Some team members feared for their jobs. Others quietly began updating their resumes. It wasn't just a PR nightmare, it was personal. For Meghan, this podcast wasn't a side project. It was her platform, her comeback, her reintroduction. And watching it unravel crushed her. It didn't take long for the professional fallout to start. Brand partners who were in talks to sponsor the podcast began pulling back. One mid-sized skincare label reportedly froze a $500,000 deal, citing reputation risk. A wellness brand that had collaborated with Meghan's team before allegedly paused talks on a bundle campaign. Even streaming platforms are watching closely. Executives are now reportedly reconsidering future licensing deals. One source said, "They're not saying no to Meghan, but they're definitely saying not now." And it gets worse. PR firms are now distancing themselves. The boutique agency that initially helped roll out the podcast has quietly stepped away, removing mentions from their site.
Before we even get to the main event.
When the stakes are this high, doesn't it make more sense to hear our story from us?
Oh, shut up. What do you mean the stakes are this high? Who do you think you are? Other than a latte-munching imbecile.
Hey, lowly cameraman, come over here and try some fried chicken. Try the fried chicken. Try the fried chicken. We need to make it look like I actually care about my camera crew. Come get some fried chicken. Act like you're having fun. Act like you're having fun.
Meghan's internal brand, as ever, is allegedly retooling its launch strategy, scrubbing podcast references and pivoting toward lifestyle content instead. In Hollywood, reputation is leverage. And when yours is under fire, deals die before you even know they were close. Meghan is learning that the hard way. Then came the jokes. And in Hollywood, mockery is death. A popular late-night host made a viral quip. Meghan's podcast had so many no-shows, they should have called it Confessions of a Ghost Guest. The audience roared, Twitter lit up, and the tone was set. One satirical sketch on YouTube mocked the show as a PowerPoint with background music, with a fake Meghan voice chiming in over generic audio bites. Even podcasting forums got in on the action, with one thread titled, "Did Meghan interview herself again?" TikTok creators reenacted imaginary pitch meetings where Meghan is told Beyoncé ghosted her, then replaced with a small batch candle maker from Vermont. It was brutal, it was viral, and it was impossible to ignore. When media turns you into a punchline, regaining credibility isn't just hard, it's nearly impossible. Meghan's team reportedly begged entertainment blogs to ease off. But the storm was already at full speed, and nobody was hitting pause.
This series, and they'll believe it. They'll believe the smears about Britain and our monarchy, that we're a bunch of bigoted and hateful people. They even blamed Brexit for the racism, which apparently was aimed at Meghan Markle, which is just completely absurd. But by far the most sickening part of this show for me was the constant use of Harry's...
Now, what's interesting about all of this is that we already know that Meghan Markle is actually trying to do whatever that she can do to fund her own programs, to fund her own projects as well. You know, we already know that she has backup plans to actually fund her very own reality TV series if no other studio picks it up. We already know that she's trying to get MTV.
Once surrounded by powerful names, Meghan is now watching those same people drift away. Quietly, strategically, without confrontation, but unmistakably. A-list names who once supported her podcast launch have gone radio silent. A fashion influencer who previously promoted her Spotify show has removed Meghan-tagged stories from their highlight reel. A former mentor who appeared at a charity event with her last year has declined 2 invites since the podcast fiasco. Even professional contacts are turning cold. One producer reportedly told a colleague, "There's too much baggage now." Another referred to her platform as too polarizing to touch. Allyship in entertainment is fragile. It's based on clout, not contracts. And right now, Meghan's stock is plummeting. Former allies aren't speaking against her. They're simply disappearing. So now what? Meghan is at a crossroads. She can double down. Launch season 2 with fresh names and clearer transparency. But sources say she's hesitant, burned, bruised, and worried it'll flop again. she could shift direction, pivot the brand entirely, focus on, as ever, ditch podcasting, reclaim lifestyle. But that means admitting the podcast failed, and Meghan doesn't like to lose. Or she could retreat, take time away from the spotlight, regroup. But in the content world, silence gets filled fast.
And right now,
the narrative isn't in her hands. Every move she makes next matters. Because this wasn't just a content misfire, it was a personal, public, and professional collapse. The leaks were bad. The no-shows were worse. But the real problem? Everyone saw it happen. As if public mockery and industry fallout weren't enough, insiders now say Meghan's biggest threat may be within her own team. Multiple leaks allegedly originated from disgruntled former staffers, people Meghan once trusted with her reputation. One name reportedly worked closely on the podcast's early production, only to be let go mid-season, without warning or explanation. That firing? It may have opened the floodgates. Sources claim the leaked celebrity rejection list was compiled internally as part of a PR damage control briefing. But instead of being used to recalibrate strategy, it was leaked strategically.
Why?
One insider simply said, there was resentment. A lot of us knew she wasn't listening to real advice. The implication is clear. Someone inside wanted this to blow up. And when loyalty disappears inside the house, there's no telling how far the cracks will spread. Meghan's podcast collapse isn't just bad PR. It could spill into her other partnerships. Executives at Netflix, who reportedly greenlit additional nonfiction content for Meghan and Harry, are now watching this situation very closely. Insiders say concerns are growing that the backlash from the podcast could taint future projects. One executive allegedly asked during a team meeting, if she can't keep a podcast together, what happens on a multi-million-dollar docuseries? Some team members are urging caution. Others are calling for a pause. And if the public continues to ridicule her creative output, Netflix may be forced to delay, restructure, or worse, cancel upcoming content tied to the Sussex brand. That's not just a content loss. That's a revenue pipeline collapse. And Meghan's name is now at the center of it. And then there's the palace. Don't think for a second they're not paying attention. While Meghan has spent years carving a life independent from the royals, every headline still reflects on the monarchy. And sources inside palace circles say senior royals are privately pleased by the podcast's implosion. One insider allegedly described it as karma in high definition. But it's not just schadenfreude. UK press is now reigniting debates about the couple's judgment, their brand, and the long-term viability of their commercial ventures. Some columnists are even speculating whether Harry may quietly consider re-establishing ties with royal institutions to regain legitimacy if Meghan's public image continues to decline. And if that narrative takes hold, we're not just talking about a podcast crisis anymore. We're talking about a turning point in the Sussex story. It's the part no celebrity wants whispered. The blacklist. Not public, not official, but real and reportedly forming behind closed doors. Multiple Hollywood PR firms are now allegedly refusing to take on Meghan Markle as a client, citing her podcast's fallout as a brand liability. One well-known agency reportedly turned down a proposal to relaunch her public image, with one executive allegedly saying, "She's too high risk, too reactive, too radioactive."
The issue?
Reputation management firms thrive on timing, influence, and trust. But with back-to-back scandals, leaks from her own staff, and a public brand spiraling on social media, no one wants to be the next firm blamed when things blow up again. Insiders say two agencies even circulated internal memos warning team members not to pitch Meghan-related partnerships. The message couldn't be clearer. The Hollywood machine is quietly stepping back. And for someone who built her second act on PR and perception, that's a fatal wound. Remember when Meghan's first podcast, Archetypes, launched with a massive multi-million-dollar Spotify deal? Fast forward to today, and Spotify's silence on confessions of a female founder is louder than any press release. They weren't involved in the second podcast, and now, industry insiders say Spotify made that decision very deliberately. According to leaks from inside Spotify's corporate development team, The streaming giant was approached about distributing Meghan's new series, but politely declined without negotiation. And when the leaks hit, Spotify still didn't offer public support, even as Meghan's podcast trended for all the wrong reasons. No quotes, no defense, no retweets, nothing. In the PR world, that kind of silence isn't neutral. It's tactical, it's protective, and it signals what most of Hollywood is already thinking. Meghan Markle is no longer a safe investment.